This world is physically running out of memory chips. Not phone storage, actual silicon. And there's no fix coming in time. If you think this is just gamers complaining about RAM prices, that story is already over. We're in phase 2 now. The world's biggest memory makers are already sold out, and their own CEOs are warning this could last past 2030. Big tech bought in first. This isn't a shortage anymore. It's a tax on everything you're about to buy. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm taking you through 4 things. First, what's actually happening behind closed doors in the semiconductor war right now. Second, why $20 billion factories and $1 trillion budgets still can't build memory fast enough to catch up. Third, what this is already doing to your prices, your next phone right now. And fourth, where this actually goes next and who is positioned to survive it. Let's start with what nobody's supposed to know yet. In October 2025, on an earnings call almost nobody outside Wall Street was watching, SK Hynix told investors something remarkable. They had nothing left to sell. Not almost nothing, nothing. Every chip they had made in 2026 was already spoken for, months before the year even started. That's not a normal thing for a chip company to say. So, why would one of the 3 biggest memory manufacturers on earth would be bragging about having none left? Because for the first time in this industry's history, running out isn't an accident. It's the plan. Here's a split you need because everything else builds on it. There are 2 kinds of memory chip that matter right now. DRAM, the regular memory that's been in your phone and your laptop for decades. And HBM, high bandwidth memory. DRAM's more expensive cousin, built to sit next to AI chips and feed them data at insane speed. Same factories, same basic technology, but completely different paycheck. A gigabyte of HBM could earn a manufacturer somewhere around 3 to 4 times of what a normal gigabyte of DRAM would earn. So, if you're Samsung, SK Hynix or Micron and you can only build so much chips in a year, which one would you build? You know the answer. So do they. This isn't the memory industry's usual boom and bust. This is different because the capacity isn't just tight. It's been actively pointed somewhere else. Every wafer that becomes an HBM chip is quite literally a wafer that didn't become the RAM in your next laptop. In 2024, HBM ate around 8% of the world's DRAM wafer supply. This year, that number has passed 23%, nearly tripled in 24 months. It's not a market responding to demand. It's an industry rewiring itself around one customer type. And that customer type has a name you already know. Scam Altman. Sorry Linus, I'm stealing that. That sounds really nice. In June of this year, 17 people, 14 regular consumers and 3 small PC building businesses sued Samsung, SK Hynix and Micron in a federal court in California. Not for making HBM, for allegedly agreeing together that they will strangle all of the memory supply so they can make really high margins on them. And I want to be careful here because the details really matter. The lawsuit, filed under the Sherman Act, alleges these 3 companies used the AI boom as cover to coordinate cutting older memory formats, driving conventional DRAM prices up by something like 700% in 4 years. That's the allegation. It's not a verdict. The company position is that this is an independent business judgment, not really 3 of them colluding. That is a real distinction, and a court will have to decide which one it really is. Here's why it's not coming out of nowhere though. Samsung and SK Hynix, under their former name Hynix, have done this before. Back in the early 2000s, both pleaded guilty to an actual Department of Justice price-fixing conspiracy over DRAM. Hynix alone paid $185 million, one piece of more than $700 million in total fines from that case, with several executives going to prison. So when same 3 companies are now controlling somewhere around 90 to 95% of the world's DRAM supply, and as they have already been caught you might know why federal government is now being really pushed or being asked to look at. But nobody, this is funny, nobody has been found guilty yet. I don't know how. Like, RAM prices have been crazy. I haven't built a PC in 2 years because I've been waiting for it. I've been waiting for the prices to go down. So now this is an open allegation, but this somehow tells us that where the industry is actually heading, right? Concentrated enough and important enough that now the US government is actually taking some actions and trying to figure out like what is actually happening on the inside. And right behind that, the biggest scarcity of memory and DRAMs right now are the biggest buyers on the planet. Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon, the hyperscalers aren't just buying GPUs by the hundreds of thousands. They're pre-buying years and years of memory through direct years of contracts. Between them, the biggest cloud players are on pace to spend north of $600 billion on infrastructure this year alone. And memory rides along on every AI system they build. So here's where we actually are. Phase 1. The story you might already know. PC gamers being annoyed that the RAM prices are being crazy right now. Phase 2. The one that this video is actually about. Is a permanent reallocation of resources that everything else on earth runs on. That is really decided by 3 companies bought up by first 5 or 4, like whatever companies will be, and the crazy prices that we normal humans have to pay for. So if it's not necessarily a conspiracy theory or federal court will decide that, who is actually deciding that you will get less memory on your next phone? Whichever way that lawsuit goes, one thing doesn't change. The physical memory on earth is really finite right now, and it is actually flowing somewhere else in a really insane speed, which really raises the most obvious question of all time. If everyone can see this coming, why doesn't anyone build more? Like this girl saying,
if you're homeless, just buy a house.
Samsung, SK Hynix and Micron aren't sitting on their hands, by the way. Between them, they have committed over tens of billions of dollars in building memory factories in the last 18 months. And it still won't be enough. Not because they're not really trying it. I mean, I hope they're trying their best, but just because what a memory factory really is. Let's answer the question properly instead of just hand-waving it. Why can't they just build more? A new DRAM or a HBM factory costs somewhere between $15 and $20 billion before a single usable chip comes out of it. Construction alone takes 2 to 3 years. Now pouring concrete, building clean rooms, like making sure it's dust resistant or whatever they call it, so like even a single piece of dust doesn't really ruin a whole batch. Then there is more time to install the equipment, think about the yields, because a brand new factory doesn't hit full speed on day one. It takes some time. Micron broke ground on its newest large memory mega fab in January of this year. Burst production isn't expected until 2030. That's 4 years for the single biggest piece of capacity that's been planned. And for the shortage that is happening right now. So even with unlimited motivation, with shit ton of money behind it, and I'm talking billions and billions of dollars behind it, this doesn't really fit the timeline that has panicked. Like, we are fucked right now. But there is a second wall in front of it. It's called the memory wall, and it's been quietly building for the last 20 years. Processor speed, how fast a chip can think, has been improving so much faster than memory bandwidth. How fast data actually gets delivered to the chip, that by some estimates, memory has fallen behind by a factor of roughly 600 over 2 decades. Sit with a safe for a second. You can build the fastest brain in the world, but it doesn't really matter if the information can't reach to it fast enough. That's the memory wall in one sentence. A genius who's been handed a library card, but the damn librarian can only bring one book at a time, like the one book in an hour. HBM exists specifically to attack that problem, stacking memory dies directly on top of each other, a dozen plus layers, wired together with microscopic vertical connections called through silicon vias, so data travels less distance. It's brilliant engineering. It's also very fragile in a way that whoever is building it should be very careful and should be worrying about. If you stack too many layers, the yield collapses. More layers means more chances. If even one of the connection is bad, it will ruin the whole stack. And there's also heat. Put memory directly on top of a GPU that's already running hot, and local temperatures can climb past 140 degrees Celsius, close to where the chip simply stops working. Recent lab research got that back down to 70 degrees, but that is just a lab research, nothing like ready to be shipped yet. Now, here's a number that should actually stop you. Industry data suggests that HBM failures are now the single leading cause of GPU failures at AI data centers. I'll simplify it. I'll try to put it in one sentence. So, HBM was made to make AI faster, right? So, we got the holy grail. But HBM is also the reason it can't get any faster than that. And I know the chips get too hot is usually sounds like simply like a nerdy problem compared to this global storage. But this is the actual ceiling. Even if every dollar on earth showed up tomorrow to fix this issue, this is the wall that money cannot buy. Like, this is literally impossible even for Kanye West.
I always felt like I could do anything. That's the main thing people are controlled by. Thoughts, their perception of themselves.
So put the two halves together. Even the three companies with the biggest, deepest pockets on earth can't outinvest a problem that is part financial, that it is part physics. If they can fix this by 2027, and every serious estimates they can, and I 100% believe they can't, they're not gonna do it by 2027, especially it's like 5 months away, 6 months. It's 4 months away. Time flies fast. That cost has to land somewhere. It lands on you, it lands on us, it lands on the storage itself, on the stores. HP's own chief financial officer stood up on an earnings call earlier this year and said the quiet part out loud. Memory, she said, had gone from roughly 15 to 18% of what it cost HP to build one of the PCs to roughly 35% in about a year. And just sit with that. That is not a struggling startup like trying to get an attention. That is HP, Hewlett Packard, one of the biggest PC makers on earth. Like, they're actually very popular. And they are telling out loud that it's actually costing them like 1/3 of what it actually used to cost now for them to build a PC. And that's not an abstract industry statistic. That number is the reason your PC, your phone, and I don't know what are like, these rich cunts have always, and if you go down the history of like whatever it is, they've always transferred these crazy prices to general public through groceries, to whatever, whatnot. Like, these prices were supposed to come down, like, and somehow it's up by 700%. That's actually fucking absurd. But what can we really do when Scam Altman and his friends are playing their little AI games, like who is gonna build the most AI data center, who is gonna finish first, who's gonna win this AI race. Like, fuck, I just want to build a PC, man. I just want to play games sometime. I just want to relax sometime. But I can't. Alright, after that valid crash out, I want to do a quick gut check of where we are right now. 3 companies control the supply, yeah? A factory takes 4 years to build. And it still can't outrun the physics, because it is what it is. So, what does that actually mean for that thing in your pocket right now? What does it mean? Manufacturers only have 2 levers when a core components get this much more expensive. Raise the prices or cut what's already inside the box. At this point, they are pulling both at once. On price, Apple's own CEO has publicly called further price increases unavoidable and described the sale of this supply shock in dramatic terms. Other PC makers have already pushed through direct price hikes on products already sitting on shelves. On specs, phones that ship with 12 gigs of memory as their main selling point have quietly stepped down to 8 gigs. And entry-level phones are heading back towards 4 gigs of RAM. That is a number that we haven't seen quite literally since 2018, is everyone has gone to 6 or 8 even in entry level. Here's one of the sharpest example I found, and I want to flag this very clearly. There are reports, not yet confirmed, that an upcoming budget Pixel phone may ship with 8 gigs of RAM, which would put it below the 12GB minimum Google itself has set as a requirement for its own on-device Gemini AI features. If that holds up by even any means, that is not just a rumor about a spec sheet. That is actually a company's own hardware cutting its own software strategy because of this exact shortage that we're talking about right now. At least one major analyst firm now projects the entire sub $500 PC category disappearing from the market within a couple of years, priced out by existence of one component. Now, if you're thinking, oh, none of this touches me, I use a cloud, I need to walk that back on you. The cloud doesn't make this disappear. The cloud just makes it harder to see. That cost somehow still flows through because they gotta make money and they have to transfer that cost to us. Those big techs, those scam altmen. I don't know how many times, but I'm gonna use that. Thank you, Linus. Into GPU instance pricing, into the subscription price increases, software companies are already openly blaming on AI infrastructure costs. Compute you never personally ever touch in your whole life, that bill will still land on you somewhere, somehow. And there is no way out of that. So, the physical wall can be solved till 2027. Prices can be solved by just hoping the prices will come down. I've been hoping for like a few years. I can't build a PC, bro. Is there actually a way out of this? Any way out of this? Turns out, yes, there is. But it's probably not the fix you're picturing. The fix nobody's talking about isn't just a bigger factory. It's making the memory you already have work 3 to 4 times harder. I'll show you what that looks like. But first, I need to be honest with you here about what happens next. What really is gonna happen. Because I don't actually know for certain. Neither does anyone that is being straight with you. There are 2 real camps here. And they disagree completely. Camp 1 says this is structural and permanent. AI demand for memory isn't going away. It's the highest margin business these companies have ever had. So, consumer memory stays the leftover market indefinitely. On this view, meaningful price relief doesn't show up until like 2027 or even 2028. 100%. And some analysts do say that we will just live with these new prices. Yep. And this camp 2. And which is the contrarian case, and it deserves its actual same airtime. Some analysts look at this and see this exact same shape as every memory boom before it. Capital pouring into new capacity on the assumption that AI demand grows forever. If hyperscaler spending ever slows even a little, the same factories built for HBM could flood the market with supply nobody asked for, and crash prices the other way. And I'm not going to pretend I know which camp is right. Both could be right. I don't know. And anyone on either side, they're telling, oh, they're certain, oh, is 100% sure. They must be selling you something here. So, which is it? A permanent shift to the prices and this is just how we live and I never get to build my PC? Or is it gonna be same boom and bust that happens in this economy, just dressed up in this new AI feature? And honestly, I don't know yet. I don't think anybody knows. This is just hella confusing. What I can really talk about is the efficiency side of the story, which is further along than most people realize. Nobody is building their way out of this until 2027. I'll say right here until 2028 at least. Most of them are saying 2027, but with how things are looking right now, 2028 or 2029, bro. Yeah. At best, smartest players are rooting around. Here's how. First, something called CXL, Compute Express Link. Simple idea, clunky name. Right now, every server holds its own fixed pool of memory, and most of it sits half empty most of the time. CXL lets that memory get pulled and shared across many machines instead, like switching an office from one printer per desk to a few shared printers down the hall. Microsoft ran its own internal research on this, a project called Pond, and found that pooling memory this way recovers a meaningful single-digit percentage of DRAM that was otherwise just sitting there stranded, at a scale where that's real money, not a total fix, real money. Second, software. Quantization, caching, smarter memory management during an AI inference are already cutting the effective memory and compute cost of running AI models significantly without a single new chip being built. Third, and this one actually surprised me as I was researching it, there's a completely new way to build this chip. Instead of stacking HBM next to a processor, some companies are building chips around a large pool of a different, older kind of memory, SRAM, placed directly on the same piece of silicon as the processor itself. No stacking, no separate memory chip at all. The clearest example, NVIDIA itself, the company that makes almost all the HBM-hungry AI chips that every single AI data center, every single AI storage unit needs. They spent $20 billion last year with the rival chip company called Grok. With the rival company, $20 billion. It wasn't structured as a normal acquisition, more of a technology license and talent deal. What NVIDIA actually got for that money is rights to Grok's SRAM chip design. And a few months later, NVIDIA unveiled the result. A new inference chip claiming roughly 35 times more throughput per unit of power than NVIDIA's own flagship HBM-based system. For the exact kind of workload this entire shortage is being driven by. Now read that twice. The company most responsible for the HBM gold rush just spent $20 billion hedging against its own strategy. That tells you something honest about what the smartest people in this industry think where the wind is really blowing. And here's where I land. After everything we have talked through in the past, I think this has been a long video, even longer than I imagined because I've been crashing out nonstop. I'm sorry for that. Because this thing is just crazy at this point. But I know for sure the winners won't be the people who will hold all the memory in the next or for the next few years. They won't be. They will 100% be whoever is the most efficient with whatever they have. Because NVIDIA just proved it using an older design. Because $0 left was never really about the numbers hitting zero. It's about when the whole world starts to realize there is actually no more silicon coming. The assumption is already gone. The only question is who really adjusts themselves, like which company fastest. All right, that's it. That was a long video. I rant quite a bit in between. I'm sorry I crashed out, that this is just a little bit personal, but hopefully I did a good job. I'm just not trying to make any content here. I'm trying to make something that is genuinely worth watching, that is genuinely worth your time. So thank you to whoever is sticking so far. Please subscribe, like, share. I'll see you with a banger in the next video. Bye.